Hello, everyone. It's me again, Amanda Enderman, your trusty tour guide in the wonders of the wonderful city, also known as Rio de Janeiro. And on this video, we are going to entitled, of course, Making a Buck in Rio Part 2. As I mentioned in the last video, we are going to be talking about the ultimate moneymaker, which is, of course, gold. Okay, and how it first came to be found and extracted in Brazil and in Rio and all that jazz. Okay, and well, if you are new to this channel, please make sure to watch the introductory video, which is entitled Nice to Meet You All. It's the first video of the videos in English playlist, so that you can know what this channel is about, what I'm doing here, and all of that lovely stuff. And if you like the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and share it with as many people as you possibly can. So that out of the way, let's get on to Making a Buck in Rio Part 2, talking about aurum, Latin name for none other than gold. Sorry, folks, I had to pause the recording real quick. I know I don't normally do this, but it just started raining here. What a rainy December we're having here in Rio. Anyways, but let's continue with the video, shall we? So after sugarcane, while the Portuguese were there, you know, minding their own business, they had already accepted that, oh well, there might not be gold here after all, but at least we can make a buck with sugar cane, and before that, at least we can make a buck with Brazil wood. And if you're wondering how was that, you can watch the part 1 of Making a Buck in Rio, because there I speak about the Brazil wood and sugar cane. All right. So, but actually, around the 17th century or the 1600s is when, for some reason, the Portuguese start getting a bit restless, you know, and say, you know what? Let's disobey the Treaty of Tordesillas. And yes, I am bringing that up again. Remember, the first time I spoke about the Treaty of Tordesillas and how it was signed and all of that, I believe was in the Founding Rio video. So you can go check that out if you haven't yet, or if you have already seen that video but forgot and you would like to remember, make sure to watch that one as well. So let me share my screen with you once again, so this can become a lot more dynamic. Am I right? So here we go. So here is the actual map of what the Treaty of Tordesillas looked like. So it's divided Brazil into, as you can see, and this area here to the right side of the line was Portugal's domain, while this whole area over here was Spanish domain. So Portugal could not go to it could not go to this side. Okay, and as you can see, Brazil nowadays encompasses all of this with this line in gold here. These are the current borders of Brazil. So you can see all of the south of Brazil was belonged to Spain at this time, didn't even belong to Portugal. The Amazon jungle over here, all belonging to Spain, not Portugal. So you can see all Portugal had was this. So, and in this area, they still hadn't found any gold in the 17th century yet. So they decided, and also the Portuguese, they were even made fun of by the rest, by other countries, that is, because they for a long time only settled in the shoreline, which, funny enough, is what many foreign tourists do to this day. It's funny though that a lot of times I ask tourists if they ever heard of these places here, for instance, Goiás or Cuiabá, and they're like, no, what is this? You know, it's almost as if tourists think that this is a black hole or something like that, or is part of another country. It's almost as if you guys are upholding this treaty, you know. Now you know why I always giggle when tourists have no idea that this over here, for instance, is also Brazil, and this, which nowadays is Ouro Preto, is also Brazil. You know, it's so. So when you come to Brazil, folks, be sure not to stay only in the shoreline, okay? Brazil isn't only about beaches, all right, either. So be sure to visit the center east of Brazil as well, and of course the lovely state of Minas Gerais, which we are gonna mention in this video as well because of the gold. Naturally, you can't talk about gold without mentioning that. But of course, I will be focusing more on Rio because, well, I am focusing on that in this channel. But be sure to visit those places as well. You won't regret it. So, but in the 17th and 18th centuries, the Portuguese decided, well, let's further explore Brazil. And they did that by means of two different enterprises. The entradas, which the blue arrows are the path of the entradas, okay, and which were enterprises that were backed by Portugal, and they had the objective only of exploring the territory, okay, and nothing more. And the real expansion of Brazilian territory, as you can see here, I guess you could say the Brazilian version of the westward expansion, all right, was done by the bandeiras, all right, and the bandeiras, they were private enterprises which mainly sought obtaining profits, or better yet, making a buck. So they were very much money oriented. So they did these three things that are written here. They did hunt and enslave the indigenous, and I will be talking about that more in depth in the video about slavery in Rio. They were after gold and minerals and precious metals, as you can see by the green arrows. Those are gold. Those are expeditions devoted to gold. And here, which are the entradas, were basically just to further explore and expand the territory. So the very first discovery of gold was made by a bandeirante, so with a bandeira kind of expedition called Manuel Borba Gato, which is this guy over here. Okay, he was the very first one, and his expedition discovered gold in none other than the region of Sabarabuçu, which nowadays is a city of the state of Minas called Sabará. Okay, this was the very first place where gold was ever found in Brazil. And as I said in the previous video, from 1500 until the 17th century, the Portuguese had never found gold or precious metals or anything like that. You know, they were content with the consolation prize, also known as sugarcane, and the other one before that, also known as Brazilwood. So you can imagine the frenzy that they were once they discovered there is gold after all in our colonies. Okay, so here we have a map of what nowadays is the Royal Road. So the path of the gold. So the Royal Road. So the Royal Road is almost all of it in Minas, but some of it is in the state of Rio as well. And as you can see, there are two different paths over here. The old road, Caminho Velho, and the new road, which is Caminho Novo. Why is that? Well, the very first path, well, with the finding of gold, and let me find, and here is the path of Sabarabuçu, as you can see. So let me zoom in so that, oh, here you go. So here, let me zoom in for you. So here is the path of Sabarabuçu, where gold was first found, and the actual city of Sabará. Let me find it here for you. It's supposed to be here. No, goodness, I can't find it right now. I'll find it later for you. I promise. As soon as I find it, or perhaps you can find it in the map. And the actual city of Sabará is around. Oh, it's right here. Oh boy, it was on my bed. It's like finding Waldo, kind of like finding Waldo, right? So kind of like a Where's Waldo book. So this is Sabará, okay, where gold was first found. So at this time, the capital of Brazil was Salvador in Bahia. And the gold was being found over here in each time more cities, such as Ouro Preto, former Vila Rica, or Diamantina, which is up here, which is further up here in the map, or all of these cities. And as you can see, a lot of cities in the Royal Road have names referring to gold, such as Ouro Preto, which translates to black gold, Ouro Branco, which translates to white gold, or there's a city here called Lavras, which once again is which once again is a term referring to the way of finding and extracting, one of the ways of finding and extracting gold, you know, and all of that. So at first they did the old roads, which went from Diamantina, which is right over here in the map, which is right over here, okay, until here, and it ended at Paraty, which is a city in the still in the shoreline in the state of Rio. By the way, very highly recommend that you visit this city when you're in the city of Rio. As you can see, it's not so far from Rio. I think it's 3 hours tops by bus from Rio. So, but then it became increasingly harder to control the extraction of the gold, because you see here it says to Salvador. So if you get a map of Brazil, you'll see how far Salvador actually is from Minas. So they decided to change the capital to Rio, right over here, and redesign the path of the gold so that it would end in Rio. And really, folks, this is when Rio actually grew and expanded and started growing as a city, you know, because this is where the gold arrived. And this is where the gold arrived and was melted into bars and sent to Portugal. So Rio became, and well, it was the capital of it was made the capital of colonial Brazil, okay, in 1763, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, so I got the date right. I normally, forgive me, exact dates are my weak spot. I'm so sorry. But however, Gomes Freire de Andrade, and the one which was one of the governors of Rio during the colony, was really the man behind the expansion and urban growth of colonial Rio, which is this guy over here, Gomes Freire de Andrade, or the Count of Bobadilla. So this guy, and really he was a visionary, because as you can see, he started expanding Rio by building a palace for the viceroys to live, including himself. I believe he was the first one to live there, which was the Paço Imperial. But he started building it in 1738. So quite a few decades before Rio actually became the capital. So you can see how much of a visionary he actually was. And the palace that he had built, that he asked Portugal to give permission for building was, sorry, this is in the palace, was this one over here. I will go back to those slides later in the video. So was this one over here. So here you can see the growth of the city. All right. You can see here, there's just a small house, and look what it became. You know, and a lot of people. This is part of a sequence of photos, of paintings that is painted by Guta. And I always used to show these sequences to the tourists at Fundição Progresso, and they would look at the paintings of the early 20th century, where all of these were destroyed basically and substituted for eclectic style buildings, and they would say, oh, this is gentrification. No, this was the gentrification of Rio, when Rio went from this to this. All right, and this over here was the Paço Imperial, first built by order of Gomes Freire de Andrade, the Bobadilla Count. Okay, and the Paço Imperial, as I said, was not only the palace of the viceroys, but it also was where the gold arrived in the form of small stones, or even in the form of powder. It would then be melted into bars, and this is what a gold bar would look like back in colonial times. Though this over here in the first picture is actual gold in its raw state. This is real gold, the real deal. As a matter of fact, I took this picture myself in Confidence Museum in Ouro Preto. Okay, so and I highly recommend that one of the cities that I highly recommend that you go to. So this here is natural gold, and so they would get a lot of these bits and pieces and melt them into bars that looked like this, and these bars would be sent directly to Portugal. And the place where they melted the bars was this over here. This is inside the Paço Imperial, and believe me, I have taken many groups of tourists here over the last 5 years. Okay, and these over here, folks, they are the actual ovens where they would melt the gold. So not only would the viceroys live in this palace, this is where the gold would arrive and would be melted into bars and sent to Portugal. And still speaking about the growth of the city, okay, another man who took advantage of the gold and decided to also make a buck in Rio, but not exactly with the gold, but already using real estate. They say real estate is always a safe business to invest in. So there you go. This guy was already investing in it by building this grand house over here. And it was none other than the judge Antônio Teles Barreto de Menezes. And he was a very wealthy guy. So he built this house over here, and he rented out the rooms to very important families in Rio. However, in 1790, there was a huge fire which began at a store at this street over here, which is the 1 de Março Street. And back then it was called Right Hand Street, Rua Direita. And by the way, the very first paved road ever in the history of Rio, folks. But the fire started here and took over a lot of the house. So after it's devalued and then people who were, shall we say, of um, of more modest means started occupying the rooms, because of course the gentry left once the fire happened. Okay, so folks, let me see if I haven't forgotten anything. Well, let me see. Oh, and I forgot to mention the actual house of the viceroys and the governors, which was here, was actually first opened for them to live quite earlier in 1743. So you can see how much of forward thinking they were, right? So folks, let me stop share here. So this concludes our video entitled Making a Buck in Rio. Okay, and stay tuned for more videos. I haven't given up on this channel, far from it. And in fact, uh, in the coming year, which is knocking on the door basically as I record this video, we will have plenty of news on this channel as well. So by all means, stay tuned for that. And so bye, and see you in the next video.